Hello everyone, my name is Lale. I am the founder of Color Pencil School. In this video, I am going to provide you with a mini review on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper. I am using the white color paper in this experiment. I am going to try and see how we can blend color pencil on this paper using different methods and tools, starting from just using the pencil tips and layering of just color pencil without any tools, then moving to using different blending tools including paintbrush, cotton buds and paper stumps, as well as odorless mineral spirit. Then I'm going to try and see how color pencil pigments would sit on a base of PanPastel on this paper. And then I am going to see whether some of the methods that we use on other textured papers, such as Pastelmat, whether that work on this paper as well, including application of light colors on dark colors, and some of the subtraction techniques, including a slice tool or precision knives, a fine eraser, sticky tapes or electrical eraser, whether those methods would work on this paper. I am going to try different types of color pencil, including drier pencils such as polychromos and Derwent Lightfast pencils, as well as waxier color pencils, including Luminance and Prismacolor Premier. At the end of this experiment, I am going to try to layer different types of color pencil on this paper and see how that would improve the blending of the pigments on the paper. And at the very end, I am going to try and draw a real flower on this paper using different brands of color pencil to see how a real project would show on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper. I hope that you enjoy this experiment. At the end of it, I am going to summarize the results of this mini experiment and review. Hope you enjoy it and hope you find it informative. It is relatively a long video, but it is a thorough experiment that would show you how different methods work, and I hope that it helps you if you want to choose this paper for your color pencil projects. Thank you. So after about 15, I don't know, I didn't count, but after about, I think, between 15 and 20 layers, I managed to get a reasonably smooth blend and a nice orange color in between, which means that these two managed to get together and layer nicely. What I didn't get was to get rid of the grains. Well, usually when there is a dark color on a light textured paper like a Pastelmat, we use other neutral colors or lighter colors to smooth them down, which is I'm going to try here with polychromos and see what happens if I used, for example, a neutral color on that. But this blend, which is just achieved by layering of two colors, is actually not a bad blend. The grains are still there, but I like this effect of the grains that they show up. So now I'm going to use a dark polychromos pencil. I'm going to use dark indigo and just go over and do a very small, in the interest of time, just do a very small patch here and try to smooth that out. Best colors that we use to smooth out dark colors on a grainy paper is warm gray too. So I'm going to use that to layer this and see what happens. Will it actually do the same thing as we expect it to do on on, for example, Pastelmat or sandpaper, not. So I'm gonna just use that now. So after blending, putting about 10 layers of these two alternatively, I managed to get a very smooth blend with polychromos dark indigo going in between with the warm gray 2, which is the normal one of the pencils that we usually use for blending dark colors on Pastelmat. So the next thing I would like to try is to do exactly the same as what I did with polychromos with first with Caran d'Ache luminance, and then I'm gonna use a Prismacolor here, and the last row is gonna be the Derwent Lightfast to see how those different pencils are gonna work and create the same effect here. So at the end of this round, just using the pigments and the pencil tips to blend the pigments on this paper, what I can say is that all of the pencils, Polychromos, Luminance, Prismacolor Premium, and the Derwent Lightfast, all of them blend well on this paper. I mean, they layer well on the paper without any tools or any blending medium. The only thing is that the drier pencils, like the Polychromos and the Derwent, they actually create a nicer blend, perhaps because they are drier and they don't stick to the surface of the paper. What I can say is also that none of them move. You don't get to move the pigments on the paper with any of these brands. The other things that I did was to use the same thing as we do on Pastelmat. When we use a dark color, when you use a dark color, this one is Prismacolor. Usually on Pastelmat we go alternating the dark color with a neutral color to get rid of the grains of the Pastelmat. I just wanted to try if that was possible on this paper as well, and that worked really well too. So in the second column, what I'm going to do is to use the same brands as the same column, but try to blend with a brush and see if the brush can actually help moving the pigments on this paper, because as I said, that is something that I found on this Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper, that pigments do not move only with the tip of the pencil. So I'm gonna do that and then use my brush to try to see if I can blend them. So in this column, what I did was to use Polychromos, Luminance, Prismacolor, and then Derwent Lightfast, and then blend between each few layers. I used a brush to blend the pigments. What I found out that it does lift some of the pigment and helps the blending, but what we achieve is nowhere near what we do on Pastelmat. So there were a lot of more layers to be applied on each one of these. So it does help, but it is still more sticky than Pastelmat. And also the dry pencils like the polychromos and the drier ones, which the light fast, Derwent light fast, move better and also blend better. The waxier ones leave a lot of grain after using the brush. So in the third layer, I'm going to do the same as this and then blend it with a cotton bud. So in this column, I use Polychromos, Luminance, Prismacolor Premier and Derwent Lightfast to create these round shapes and with 3 colors. And I try to blend them together with using cotton buds. And actually it worked really well with Polychromos, slightly similar with the Derwent Lightfast, and less effectively with the 2 waxier pencils, Luminance and Prismacolor. I'm sure if I carry on working on these, they would achieve a smooth blend as well. It's just the first layers, they are too sticky, too waxy to blend well. So that worked really well with using the cotton buds for blending. So for the next column, what I'm going to do is to do exactly the same, making simple shapes with 3 colors in each pencil brand, and then try to blend them with a paper stump, with a paper stump to see if that would work the same as we expect it to work on Pastelmat, although we don't tend to blend with paper stump on a Pastelmat, but it can blend, can help blending. So I'm just going to try it. So in this column, I used a paper stump to blend different brands of color pencil, Polychromos Luminance, Prismacolor Premier, and Derwent Lightfast on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper. So the best result I got was again with Polychromos. The next best was with the Derwent Lightfast, blending the colors with paper stump. Usually I don't use paper stump on a texture paper. I don't use paper stumps a lot anyway on color pencil, but just to give it a try, because some artists use it, I think that it's a good tool to blend on this paper. Blend colors to get seamless lines between the colors on this paper. On this one, I am going to use odorless mineral spirit to blend, which is an oil-based blender, to blend the pigments of color pencils of different brands, like we did here, on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper, to see if that is useful on this paper. So in this column, I used Polychromos Luminance and Prismacolor Premier and Derwent Lightfast color pencils on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper. and then I mix them with odorless mineral spirit after a couple of layers, putting some pigments down to mix them and see if that would help making a nice and nice transition between the colors. I need to work on this, but it needs to be dried overnight. So I'm gonna leave this tonight and come back tomorrow and carry on the experiment in the other columns. So hello again. This is the next day after the OMS treatment on these heart shapes with different pencils, which was Polychromos, Luminance, Prismacolor, and this one was the Lightfast, Derwent Lightfast, that were blended with OMS, are now dried out. So what I'm going to do is to see whether now with a smoother background will my pencils actually work and make this blend easier on this paper. So the result of this round of putting extra layer on a layer that was mixed with odorless mineral spirit on each one of these pencil brands, Polychromos, Luminance, Prismacolor, Premier, and Derwent Lightfast, gave me a very good result after I put a second layer on the OMS blended layer. So it works really well to blend your first layer with OMS with any of these pencils, and then go over the top with another layer, blend them, and make the effect that you want here. So the next column, I am going to try to put a base of PanPastel down and see how on this paper, on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper, how it works. So first of all, I have to say how wonderful the PanPastel actually sat and worked on this paper. It's so nice. It's a lot better than Pastelmat. No wonder there are so many good reviews about pastel work on Canson Mi-Teintes Velvet paper. Now I'm gonna just put some simple lines on with different brands of pencils on each one of these boxes and see how they actually work on there. So let's see what happens. So what I got, although I didn't spend too much time to smooth them, there are ways to smooth all these even further and get rid of all the grains of the paper using lighter colors like we did there, or neutral colors to add to them layer by layer and make them smooth. But what I wanted to see was whether I could actually put pencils, Polychromos or Luminance and Prismacolor and the Derwent Lightfast pencils on the top of PanPastel on this paper, and it worked well. It did go on the top exactly the same as what we expect on PanPastel. Of course, this paper still has the characteristic of not letting the pigments to move between the grains, which is the disadvantage to Pastelmat. So I concluded in some summary that the pencils on this paper can go on the top of PanPastel. So in the next column, I am going to use each of these squares to conduct a little experiment. I am going to try to do light on dark on various brands of pencil in this one with different whites and see if it works the same as what we see in Pastelmat. Okay, so I have put some dark colors from different brands here, and I'm going to use a few of the whites that we usually use on the top of the darks, and see which one actually work, if any, on dark on this paper. So I'm going to start with Polychromos. This patch is Polychromos dark indigo, so I'm starting with Polychromos white, which almost is not working. It's just lightening the color but not working, so it is different from what we see on Pastelmat. So that was the first. Then let's do Pablos. This is Pablo white, which usually are really good when we use it light on dark on Pastelmat. Creates really good highlights. Again, it is not working here. Let's work with Prismacolor here. Prismacolor on dark indigo Polychromos. This one is also not very good, and I'm pressing quite hard. Museum Aquarel is one of the whitest whites that we usually use for creating highlights, whiskers. It is slightly whiter than the other brands, but it is not working really well. Let's see if I actually make it wet, if it works. So even wet is not creating a good highlight. And the last one is the Derwent Drawing, which is a very, very soft pencil, and it's usually really good for creating highlights and light patches on darks. It is a lot better than the other ones, but it is still less bright than what we would see on Pastelmat. So this patch is Luminance. So I'm gonna start again with Polychromos. It is almost not there. Would be good for making the color lighter, but not for creating a highlight. Moving to Pablos. Not working really well, so it looks like dry pencils, white or light colors would not go on waxy ones. Then the Prismacolor, oh, it's better. It's a lot better. So wax on wax, waxy colors or soft ones are better on soft pencils than dark and dry ones. And Museum Aquarel. So Museum Aquarel is good. It's not bad. Let's use it wet. No, with wet it just makes a mud. And Derwent Drawing also is actually making a good mix. It would be good for lightening that color and mixing it, but not for creating a highlight. So the best one here would be Prismacolor. This patch is actually Prismacolor created with a dark color of Prismacolor Premier. So I'm going to go over that with Polychromos white. It is not there. It is mixing it. It is blending the pigments and making it lighter, but not creating a highlight. With the Pablos, again, not very effective. Prismacolor on Prismacolor. Let's see how that works. It is again better than other dry colors, dry brands, which was, well, we know that Polychromos and Pablos are drier cores. And Prismacolor Luminance are slightly waxier and softer. So the next one that I'm gonna try is the museum aquarel, but this one is surprisingly well. So none of these would be, I would say, the same as what we see on Pastelmat, because on Pastelmat we could create a very nice highlight with a museum aquarel on a dark patch after we finished it. But in here, that is, I mean, it is a reasonably good highlight, but not a very bright one. If I wet this, the patch would be similar or same as this one. And with the Derwent drawing, again, I usually can make a very nice highlight with Derwent drawing. Probably if you go a few layers, you can make it happen, but right now it is not very bright. So Prismacolor was the best again. And the last one, the last dark patch, is created with a Derwent Lightfast pencil. So I'm going to go over that with Polychromos white. It's almost not there, so no good at all for making highlight. It would be okay for making the dark colors slightly lighter or go between the layers, but not for making a highlight. With Pablo white, again, not very good. Prismacolor creates good white. With Museum Aquarel, let's do it here. Museum Aquarel is creating, again, a good highlight, but not as bright as what we see on Pastelmat. And Derwent drawing in here is actually working better than the other brands on Lightfast. So in general, the going light on dark, which is one of the best qualities of Pastelmat, is not as good on this paper, but we can get some reasonably good bright patches with Museum Aquarel and with Prismacolor on any other brand. So if your first layer was with any other of the brands of the pencils that we've tried on in this video, if you want to get reasonably good highlight or white patch, the best would be Prismacolor or Museum Aquarel to create highlight light on dark, but the highlight is not as bright as what we see on a Pastelmat. The next thing that I want to try is to use subtraction techniques such as the slice tool, Tombow mono eraser, and electrical eraser on different brands on pencil on this paper. So on Polychromos, first of all, I'm gonna try and see whether it works. So Polychromos part is this one, and let's see if I can actually take out any of the pigments off. And as you can see, it does not work. So on Polychromos part, let's see if the Tombow mono eraser can take off the pencils, and it can work. The other thing that I would like to try is an electrical eraser, and that does work. And the last thing is to use a magic tape to take off the pigments. So let's see if I can take off the pigments to create an effect on the Polychromos part. Yes, so that would work as well. So next, let's try all those subtraction techniques on different brands first, on the luminance. I don't assume that would work. It doesn't. But it actually is working better than on polychromos. So it looks like if the pencil is waxier, it works better. How about the Tombow mono eraser? That doesn't take pigments as well as it did on the drier pencil, which was the polys. The next thing is the electrical eraser. So we can use electrical eraser on a waxy pencil. So next is the magic tape. So yes, that one works as well. So next is to use it on Prismacolor. So let's see if a slice tool would take things off. It does. Well, so it looks like if your pencil is on a wax base, it works. You can take it off. Next is the Tombow mono eraser, which doesn't work. So waxier pencil is not taken off by Tombow. Then the electrical eraser, which is not too bad, but it makes a mess and it's not very clean. And next is to use the magic tape here. To use magic tape and see if that works. Yeah, that would take off pigments from the paper. So the last brand is the Derwent Lightfast, which is it's a drier core. It's similar to polychromos, and again we can see that it's not working. It's not taking pigments off. Then Tombow mono eraser, it again is not making a clean erase. Next is the electrical eraser. Yeah, that is a good erase. So if you wanted to create highlights, you can use this one. And finally, using the magic tape to see if it actually lifts any pigments. So yeah, to some extent it can. So I think that if you have waxy pencils, the best erasing technique would be either magic tape or the electrical eraser for creating highlights on this paper, or like effects, taking the pigments off. But with the slice tool, it works better on waxy pencils rather than the drier ones. It doesn't work on the drier ones. We usually don't use slice tool on textured papers like the Pastelmat, but well, sometimes it could be used in some circumstances, but apparently on this paper we can't use the slice tool at all. So the last thing that I wanted to try on this paper, and I don't have any space left on my main piece of paper, is to actually mix some of these brands together. The way that we usually tend to work on Pastelmat is to, if for example I wanted to create a red patch, I would use my dry pencil like polychromos that I'm using now to create a base, the first layer, and then I would go on the top of that with my waxier pencils, and usually it would create a very good blend. So let's see if this technique would work on this paper as well. So let's put 2 patches here with polychromos, and then go on the top of that with the 2 brands of waxy pencils that we have. this is luminance, so let's see if it would work good on this. And it is working really well. It's better than luminance on its own. It's creating a smoother blend here. And if I wanted to blend this with, add some blue to this, for example, that would give me a better base than it would on luminance on its own on this paper. Still not, not able to move the pigments with my pencil tips. So let's see if I can use the Prismacolor here. So on this patch I'm going to use Prismacolor, and again I can see that Prismacolor is sitting really nicely on the base of Polychromos. So if I am creating a real artwork, I would not work only with any of these pencils on their own on this paper. I would make a first layer using a dry pencil like Polychromos, and then add waxier pencils on the top, and it would make a very smooth blend, and would make be a lot easier to fill up the grains on this paper. So if I wanted to use this one is Derwent Light Fast. Let's see if that works any good for a base. So let's see if I added Prismacolor on the top of that, how would that work? It's not, in my opinion, it is better than Prismacolor on its own to fill up the gaps and hide the grains, but it's I think polys were better. Let's try Polychromos. And then add Derwent on the top. And I think these two work together as well. And if I wanted to do the three brands together, so put the polys first, then put something waxy like Prisma on the top, and then add Derwent. I think all of these together work really well. So my suggestion would be to start with a dry pencil like Pablo's or Polychromos, or with Derwent Light Fast, and add either Prismacolor or luminance on the top. And as you can see, when I put my dry pencil, the Polychromos, on the top of the waxier pencils, it actually blends them really well and gives me a very smooth blend. So the next thing to do to try it is to actually do an artwork, a real artwork, art project with this one, with on this paper, and to see how it works in real world, because none of these would show us how it actually would behave when we are trying to do a real artwork and drawing. So see you in the next part.